Hi guys! Welcome to the video of art that I drew like at least a month ago and then thought I would edit and then proceeded to wait a very long time before actually editing them and even scripting this video because I am so motivated and on top of things, you see. Anyway, before we get into the video, quick disclaimer, I am not a psychiatrist, I am just someone who finally got an official OCD diagnosis, and if I have to be mentally ill, I'm at least going to make cool art about it. Please do not use this video as a way to diagnose yourself. Quick trigger warning, as well as one of these pieces contains blood, and one of them has vaguely sexual themes, although that's not very explicit at all. The character isn't doing anything, and it's just, you'll see, but fair warning. Also, one of them has not very graphic at all, but technically nudity that doesn't show anything, but the girlie's got no clothes so that I can draw her organs. So yeah, just so you know. Anyway, so what is an OCD theme, some people may be asking? Well, people with OCD develop obsessions about a topic, and they get obsessive thoughts related to said topic a lot. It's a bad thing that they're afraid of, and so they do compulsions to try to ease the thoughts about said topic. The topic in question would be the theme of someone's OCD. People don't just have to have one theme, though, and themes can change or be pretty much anything and blah blah blah, but for the sake of this video, I'm just illustrating a few of the common ones. Also, none of this is intended to make light of anything, so let's get on to the video. So, starting off strong, we have contamination OCD. This is the obsession with germs. This is also, for some reason, one of the types of OCD that most people commonly associate the disorder with, although it is very much not the only kind of obsession a person with OCD can have. People with this theme often obsess about getting sick, and so they often have the kinds of compulsions like washing their hands excessively or cleaning excessively, but it could literally be anything. It's not just limited to that. I don't think I've personally experienced this one as strongly as some other themes, but I did once spend a summer sleeping in masks while with my camp for fear of giving someone COVID, and then the COVID going to someone's grandma, and thus making me a grandma murderer. So take that for what it's worth. I'm also pretty germophobic in general, and recently I've learned that if I go to the school nurse, I freak out and end up putting hand sanitizer on my face. So that's fun. In this piece, I had the character wearing a mask and gloves so that he is overprotecting himself from germs. I also filled the background with bacteria to show how he sees it everywhere. This theme is also one of the most commonly represented in media for characters with OCD, although it's certainly not always done correctly at all. Often the narrative will be that the character is just so silly and quirky and so OCD and they're super organized and clean a lot or something, which, no, that's not how that works. My favorite example, and maybe one of the only times I've seen it done really well, is in the book turned movie Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. Yes, I am now going to use this video to pitch you that book or movie. I have watched that movie 3 times as of now, and I've listened to the audiobook. If you saw that second riddle animatic I did and were wondering why there were so many spiral paintings in some scenes, it was because I was listening to that audiobook in the background and the story has a motif about spirals. Anyway, Turtles All the Way Down is really good. Please read and or watch it, preferably both, if you're in a good place mentally for it, because it made me cry because it is so accurate and real and well written and Moving on from my Turtles All the Way Down ramble, before I go on forever, we have religious OCD. This is also sometimes referred to as scrupulosity, which would also include someone's obsessions about their own moral character, religious or otherwise. This one has been my downfall. 0 out of 10, would not recommend. My obsession while I was at my worst was definitely this one, I'd say. I got very obsessed with the idea of going to hell, and it was very not fun. Since OCD themes are typically connected to what someone cares about the most, this one is often seen in people who were raised in very religious households. Not necessarily always, though, considering that I had it, even though my family, while religious, isn't super into it like some other families are. For me, it more stemmed out of a fear of death that latched onto religion as an escape of some kind, I think. Religious OCD is often associated with Christianity, since this is currently the largest religion. However, it certainly doesn't have to be. People could have obsessive thoughts related to any faith. I think it's really easy to explain that through Christianity, since that religion has the threat of, if you don't do things exactly right, you're going to hell! So people with religious OCD may need to constantly assess their behavior to make sure that they aren't doing anything that they may perceive as getting them sent to hell. I'm not even Christian, and yet my OCD latched onto Christianity for a while. It can get out of hand real fast. Anyway, that was basically just me trying to explain why I put Christian motifs into this particular piece. I also had a demon curling its tail around her to show how she is in constant fear of the devil dragging her down to hell. Next, we have symmetry OCD, or just right OCD. This, like contamination, is one that a lot of media seems to view as the only way to have OCD, or that it's silly and quirky or something. It is in fact not. People with this subtype will obsess over things either being perfectly symmetrical, or perfect in general, or ordered in a specific way. If things aren't ordered that way, they will feel anxious and upset and be unable to stop thinking about fixing it. They may redo or rearrange things over and over again. For this particular piece, I decided to make the character cute and give her fun colors because people with this theme often get shown as not being very fun people or looking dull from what I've seen, which just isn't true. I think the most divisive example of this in media that I've watched is Death the Kid from Soul Eater. He obsesses over symmetry and often has to go back and rearrange things, which causes him distress and distracts him from from fights. But the thing is that it feels like the show itself is making fun of him or not taking him seriously and uses his spirals as comic relief, which, just because people with OCD worry about irrational things, it does not make said things invalid, and I have very mixed feelings on Death the Kid, because sure, he's funny sometimes, and I like watching his character, but also, I feel like I should be offended. Anyway, I don't have much personal experience with this theme. I'm a bit of a mess, actually, because, in fact, not everyone with OCD is a neat freak, but those who are neat freaks due to it deserve compassion and understanding and shouldn't be made fun of for it. Also, I may or may not have stuck to symmetry out of all of the different things I could have done within Perfection OCD, so that I can mess around with the symmetry thingy on Procreate. Next, we have Existential OCD, which is obsessive thoughts about death and the afterlife. This was mainly what I got left with once I worked through a lot of my religious thoughts. What happens after you die? No one knows for sure, and OCD wants answers right now. So that's not gonna work out. Let me tell you, certain parts of the internet really do not help with this one. Because one time, after watching Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, by the way, which was totally worth it, I kept thinking about death, so I looked up videos of people who were declared dead and came back. And do you want to know what I found? Propaganda from religious cults! Yippee! Please don't look this stuff up. That's probably what you'll find. And it made it so much worse. Hooray! In conclusion, Googling compulsions are the worst. Please never do it. In this piece, I incorporated demon tails and angel wings to symbolize different possible afterlives, as well as dripping clocks and hands of death reaching out to grab her. Ooh, spooky. Next, we have harm OCD. This is when a person has intrusive thoughts about hurting other people. It could be someone they care about or random strangers on the street. They will often fear that they are secretly a killer deep down, or that they will suddenly snap and have no control over themselves and kill someone. A common compulsion here would be avoiding knives. It's pretty ironic because since they are so horrified and disgusted by these thoughts, it's usually indicative that they would never actually do something like that, and would never hurt anyone, and are generally not very murdery people, which is why they are so horrified at the idea of hurting someone, and so their OCD does not let it go. I had so much fun drawing the blood on this piece. Guys, tell me I'm not crazy for thinking blood is just a really interesting material to render in art. Anyway, in the piece I showed the fear of how the actual person was being horrified at the violence was actually just a mask, and they were a violent killer the whole time. Also, there's eyes in the background because drama. Next up, we have sexual OCD. Due to the taboo nature of this kind of stuff in our society, if someone's OCD wants to make them feel shameful, then boom, intrusive sexual thoughts. People with this theme will often have intrusive thoughts of taboo sexual interests that make them feel gross and bad. They will then worry if they would actually want to do something that icky, or if they're a horrible person for even having those thoughts. When in reality, they want absolutely nothing to do with whatever their brain is making them watch. It's just their OCD. This can also manifest in people obsessively questioning their sexuality. Most often, this is thought of as a straight guy getting intrusive thoughts about other men and then obsessively fearing that he could be gay, even though he doesn't even like said thoughts. They're just there to make him uncomfortable. This also could work with any other sexuality, like a gay person convinced that they are lying to themselves because they keep getting unwanted intrusive thoughts about the opposite gender. In this piece, I showed multiple people looking at the girl that she is not interested in, but she can't stop thinking about the fear that she could be. She's being grabbed by the hands of the intrusive thoughts. I also tried to make the hearts look toxic because they are fake. Anyway, moving on to somatic OCD. This one was actually not something that I knew about prior to researching a bit to get some ideas for this video. Somatic OCD is when a person becomes hyper-aware of their bodily functions. For example, they cannot stop thinking about the feeling of their heart beating, or it's like when you realize you're breathing and then you suddenly feel like you're breathing manually, except it's for a very long time. Another example is hyper-awareness of their blinking. They often have rituals of monitoring their heartbeat or seeking reassurance that their body is performing normally. In this piece, I drew in veins and various organs that the character is hyper-aware of. I also had their hair tied up with the idea that maybe they're trying to have it out of their way so that they won't think about the sensory experience of their hair touching their body. Also, I was originally going to draw an actual human heart, but that was too hard, and I gave up, and I was like, it's a cartoon. They get a Valentine's heart. Now, that is not a normally bodily function, and they should get that checked out. I also put the giant lungs in the background to show how their thoughts about their body are taking over their life. Alright, that's all of my OCD themed drawings for now. Obviously, there are many more themes than just the ones in this video. People can have OCD obsessions over pretty much anything, but I hope that I did a good job at portraying the ones I picked. I'll also try to link an OCD resource below. Also, if you like my art, I'd like to announce that I recently made a Kara account, and I'll put a link in the description if you want to see some of the art that's on there. I also have a webcomic called Lacking the Elements that I post on Webtoon, and it would be super great if you would read it. So I'll link that in the description too. Alright, that's all for now. Bye!